Welcome to Wicked Inc. Originals, your Saturday night destination for original horror stories. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely. Because tonight's tale might just haunt your dreams. Tonight's story: The Lake Takes One. I never intended to stay long in Stillwater Lake. The town was a sleepy speck on the map, just a handful of cabins, a bait shop, and a small marina perched on the edge of a lake that looked like glass on most days. Tourists flooded the streets in summer, chasing warmth and cheap thrills, but the locals? They kept their distance from the water. That, I learned quickly, was no accident. On my first day, I strolled through the town, a backpack slung low, camera hanging from my neck like any casual visitor. People smiled politely, but their eyes held something guarded. I asked around about swimming spots, and every answer circled back to the same warning: don't go in the lake. Why not? I pressed one afternoon at the bait shop. The old man behind the counter, a wiry fellow with pale blue eyes and hands stained with fish scales, just shook his head slowly. The lake takes one, he said flatly. Every summer. Every year, it claims someone. Someone who doesn't belong. I laughed. Folktales. Superstition. I'd heard worse. I was an outsider, sure, but I didn't belong anywhere anymore. Still, the idea that a lake could choose? It felt absurd. But the locals, they didn't laugh. They watched me carefully after I asked. Like I just opened a door that should have stayed shut. That night, the town settled into a strange quiet. The tourists were tucked away in their cabins, the last echo of laughter fading with the stars. I stood on the shore, watching the water ripple gently in the moonlight. There was a silence to the lake, not the absence of sound, but a waiting. Like it was holding its breath. The breeze was cool, carrying the scent of pine and something else. Something wet, deep, and ancient. I dipped my hand into the water. It was colder than I expected, chilling, even, and a shiver ran down my spine. I pulled back quickly, heart hammering, and stared out into the darkness beyond the dock. The surface was still again. But the feeling didn't leave me. The next day, I wandered the town, trying to piece together the story. A few locals shared hushed tales about the lake's history, stories of people who'd vanished, dragged beneath the surface or pulled into the depths by unseen hands. One woman told me of a girl, decades ago, who'd disappeared on a midsummer's eve. No trace was ever found, but the lake never forgot. It waits, she said, eyes wide with something like fear and sorrow, for those who don't belong. I thought about that. Outsider, stranger, intruder. Was that me? Did the lake see something in me? Something I hadn't yet realized? That night, I dreamed. The lake called me. In my dream, I was standing on the shore, but the water was black as ink. A voice, soft as a whisper and cold as ice, breathed my name. I stepped closer, drawn forward by a pull I couldn't resist. Suddenly, the water surged, wrapping around my ankles, then my knees, icy fingers pulling me under. I woke up gasping, sweat cold on my skin. The silence in my room was absolute, until a soft splash echoed from outside my window. I couldn't sleep after that. The lake was no longer just a lake. It was a presence, watching, waiting. I tried to leave Stillwater, packed my bags, ready to escape the weight of those stories and the fear growing inside me. But the road out was blocked, a fallen tree, strange and sudden, like the lake itself had reached out to stop me. So I stayed. The nights grew worse. The whispers began, not in dreams, but in the wind that curled through the trees and rattled my cabin windows. At first, they were just murmurs, barely audible. Then I heard my name. Soft, insistent, like a breath on the back of my neck. I tried to ignore it. I told myself it was the wind. My mind playing tricks. But the water called again. One evening, I stood at the dock, the surface gleaming with moonlight. The whispers rose in a song I couldn't understand. And then I saw it. A shape beneath the water, shifting, dark, watching. It didn't move like any animal I knew. It was something else. Something old. The lake wasn't just water. It was a door to something waiting in the depths. I realized then I was the one it had chosen. I didn't belong. I was the outsider. And the lake takes one. The last night I spent in Stillwater, I stood on the shore, feeling the cool water lap against my boots. The moon hung low and heavy, the surface rippling as if breathing. A sudden chill rolled in, a wind rising from nowhere, and the water began to swirl. The shape appeared again, closer now, just beneath the surface. I stepped back, heart pounding, but it was too late. The water seized me. Cold, relentless, pulling me down. Down into the darkness. Into the waiting. If you ever visit Stillwater Lake, beware. The lake is patient. It waits. And every summer, it takes one. Maybe next year, it will be you. Thank you for listening to Wicked Inc. Originals. If you survived this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your fellow brave souls. Until next Saturday, keep your lights on. And your fears closer.